Let's be honest, few debates age as well as a fine bottle of red wine. For years, moderate alcohol consumption, particularly in the form of wine, has been the toast of aging research, riding high on the coattails of the Mediterranean diet's glowing health claims. But now, the conversation is shifting from a glass a day keeps the doctor away to something more nuanced, less buzzed, and definitely more evidence-based. The Mediterranean diet and its closely aligned cousin, the alternate Mediterranean diet score, aimed, have long included moderate alcohol, typically red wine with meals, as a component of healthy aging. These eating patterns, rich in vegetables, legumes, olive oil, whole grains, and lean protein, have been repeatedly linked with reduced cardiovascular disease, lower rates of Alzheimer's and other dementias, and better physical function in older age. And in those studies, alcohol, specifically moderate wine consumption, wasn't just allowed, it was baked into the scorecard. In the original aimed scoring system, individuals who consumed between 5 and 15 grams of alcohol per day, roughly half a glass to 1.5 glasses of wine, earned a point, suggesting that modest intake was a marker of longevity-friendly behavior. And indeed, population data from cohorts like the Nurses' Health Study, the Health Professionals Follow-Up Study, and several European longitudinal projects showed that this level of intake correlated with lower all-cause mortality, better cardiovascular profiles, and improved cognitive outcomes, particularly when consumed with meals, in traditional social settings, and as part of a plant-forward, nutrient-rich diet. But before we all pop corks in celebration, there's a major caveat. Context matters. That elegant glass of Chianti is not a standalone miracle elixir. It's a minor character in a much larger dietary and lifestyle opera. The cardioprotective benefits, once attributed to alcohol, may be less about the ethanol and more about the phenolic compounds like resveratrol, found in grape skins, olive oil, nuts, and other Mediterranean staples. Translation: your anti-aging molecules might be hiding in your salad, not just your stemware. Recent meta-analyses have complicated the picture. When researchers adjusted for lifestyle confounders, like smoking, exercise, income, and diet quality, the protective effect of alcohol became far murkier. Some large-scale analyses even suggest a J-shaped curve may be less solid than once believed, with no alcohol potentially being just as good or better in some subgroups. Moreover, even low-level drinking has now been associated with increased risks of atrial fibrillation, certain cancers, especially breast, and elevated all-cause mortality in genetically vulnerable individuals. Still, what about the cognitive benefits? Wine lovers often point to the longitudinal findings from Mediterranean populations showing that moderate drinkers tend to maintain sharper memory and better verbal fluency in old age. And yes, several long-term studies, including the Bordeaux 3-City Study and the Chicago Health and Aging Project, did find correlations between modest wine consumption and reduced dementia risk. However, these benefits also track closely with overall diet quality, social engagement, and slower vascular aging, all things that red wine alone can't explain. In fact, randomized controlled trials haven't found clear cognitive improvements from alcohol in isolation. So, unless your wine is also cooking your beans and chopping your kale, it's probably not the hero here. On the flip side, excessive or even regular, moderate drinking in non-Mediterranean contexts, think solo Netflix wine binges, shows no such benefit. And that distinction is crucial. Wine consumed with food, among friends or family, in a slow, mindful way, might interact very differently with digestion, absorption, and inflammatory signaling than wine consumed on an empty stomach or in isolation. There's even some evidence that alcohol's effects on inflammation, HDL cholesterol, and endothelial function are meal modulated. So, where does that leave us? In a word, balance. For healthy adults, particularly those with no history of addiction, cancer, liver disease, or high cardiovascular risk, modest wine intake may be compatible with healthy aging, but it's hardly essential. The Mediterranean diet's power lies in the synergy of whole foods, healthy fats, fiber, and phytochemicals. Alcohol, when included, should be the gentle flourish, not the foundation. If you enjoy a glass of wine with your lentils and leafy greens, and you're otherwise thriving on a nutrient-dense, anti-inflammatory diet, you're probably just fine. But if you're drinking because you think it will protect your heart or your brain, it may be time to rethink the logic, or at least consider pouring those polyphenol from a pot of hibiscus tea or a bowl of blueberries instead. Because the real secret to aging gracefully probably isn't swirling in your glass. It's in your habits, your meals, your community, and your body's ability to keep inflammation in check without needing a liquid excuse. Wine may have earned a spot in some of the world's healthiest diets, but like any aging companion, it's best enjoyed with care, context, and a healthy dose of humility.